Hi guys, we're going to talk about the reliable source checklist. This is going to help you determine whether your sources are reliable and trustworthy and good for your academic essay. Alright, based on the last video, we learned about the CRAAP method of checking to see if your sources are reliable. And so what we have here is a table that looks at different characteristics of sources, and if you go through each one, you'll see that there is a point system, and once you get to the end, you'll add up the points and you'll use the checklist score at the top of the first page to determine whether or not your source is a good option for your paper. So for each source that you have, you should complete one of these checklists. So you're supposed to have between 2 to 4 sources, so you'll have anywhere from 2 to 4 checklists completed. So let's look at each part of the checklist and determine what each part of the checklist is for. So the first part, or the first feature, is C for currency. And currency talks about the fact of whether the information is up to date. How old is this information? So things that should be up to date in order to be valid would be science and technological developments and current events. However, documents that could be older and still relevant would be humanities and historical documents that talk about history and literature. So there's 2 lines for currency. The web page was recently updated, and I can find the date of the publication, and you would either have yes or no with your total. And the information is current for my topic of interest, yes or no. If you can't find the date of the publication, that doesn't necessarily mean that the information is not current. You would need to possibly compare that information with other articles to make sure that it is correct or that it is up to date. The second section is R for reliability. Is this information trustworthy? Can we trust the publisher? Can we trust the organization? Is this web page sponsored by a company or a group of people? For example, are the people trying to sell you something? So is this study about a medicine funded by a pharmaceutical company? If so, this could be a negative thing, and it could make the source unreliable. If the information comes from a school or government organization or a nonprofit entity, then it's probably reliable. The third section, A, is for accountability. Accountability asks who is behind this information. Who is the writer? Are they qualified to give this information? Can they support their writing with knowledge? Do they provide references when necessary? Are they qualified to even be discussing the subject? So you're looking for the name of the author. The information is from a known and trusted organization. There's a bibliography citing the sources that goes to other reliable information. The fourth section is purpose. What is the motive of the site? What are they trying to get across to you? Are they trying to inform you and share knowledge? Do they use neutral language, or are they biased, leaning from on one side to another side? If it only supports one point of view, and that one point of view is possibly questionable or controversial, it could be biased. If the main purpose of the site, again, is to sell a product or provide a service, the purpose for the article could be unreliable, untrustworthy. Of course, A very large area that is really important when determining whether your source is good or not is whether the content actually applies and is relevant to your topic. Make sure that you use sources that actually have information that you need to use for your essay. Don't just grab sources because your topic is mentioned. Also make sure that you use sources where you can understand the language and the explanations are easy for you to understand. Don't try to find long 30-page academic articles if that's not something that you're comfortable reading and taking notes from and understanding. And then the last section is accuracy. You must verify that the information on the source or on the website that you're looking at is correct. Sometimes it's very easy to do this. For example, if you're researching a current event and you look at 1 or 2 or 3 newspapers, you'll see the same information, the same details reported. So that would make the source accurate. But if you can't find the information repeated or supported on at least 1 or 2 more sites or 1 or 2 more sources, then there's a possibility that it's not accurate. So you want to judge the accuracy of a source with taking into consideration the other aspects such as accountability, reliability, and purpose. Just because a source has numbers and data in it does not mean that it's accurate, does not mean that it's reliable, or that it's accountable. Okay? So for each source, you'll go through this checklist and you'll select yes or no. And then at the end, you'll add up all of your points. If you select yes in one of the squares that is red, you will actually be subtracting 1 point. So pay attention to that. Now if you go back to the top of the first page, you'll see that the scores are, if your source gets 8 or more points, then it's probably a reliable source and you should consider using it. If it's 5 to 7 points, it might be a good source, but you need to try it out before you use it. So you need to try to find more information, try to find the accuracy aspect. Is it there on 1 or 2 other sources or sites? If there are 4 or less points, it's probably not a reliable source to use, and you should probably think about getting another source. Now we're going to look at a couple of sources so we can see how they would fit on this checklist. The first one is a source from Gulf News, and we're going to look at the checklist and determine whether this is a reliable source based on our checklist. So, currency. The web page was recently updated. I can find the date of publication. The information is current for my topic of interest. So if I go back to my source, it was published today, April 10th, 2020. So that means that it's definitely up to date and it's relevant to a source if you were writing about the current COVID crisis. Second, is it reliable? Can we trust this source? Well, this source comes from Gulf News, which is a local publication. All right, we have 2 authors, Donna Sherian and Tawfiq Nasrallah, and they're both staff writers and senior news editors. So we can say that this would probably be a reliable source of information. In addition, they also cite a source from the UAE cabinet that gives data, which means that they've included other sources. So they've been accountable for the information. The author's name is given. It's from a trusted organization. What is their purpose? Why are they writing this article? Are they trying to inform? To sell something? To persuade? If we look at the title, we can see that they're trying to inform the public. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It uses neutral language because it's supposed to be approachable for all public. So that's 8. And the site uses language and explanation that I can easily understand, so that's 9. And if I want to verify that this information is correct, I can go and I can find this information on at least 1 or 2 more sources. So all in all, that source would be reliable. Let's look at a second source from National Geographic. Okay, so we know that National Geographic is a science-based magazine. This is for educational classroom activities. Is it current? Well, let's see if we can find a date. If we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we can see that there is not a date listed for the article. However, does that mean that this source is not current or reliable? No. Let's look at the other parts to determine if we can answer. So if I was researching fossils, which is right here, okay, could I say that that information is current for my topic of interest? Yes, we can. Why? Because it falls under the heading of historical information. Okay, these are definitions. It's an encyclopedia, so the information is not going to change. Is it reliable? Does it come from a reliable, trusted source? Well, if we look at it, we see that it comes from National Geographic. National Geographic is an educational source. They serve to provide educational information through various forms. So we can say, yes, it is a trusted organization. We don't have an author, but encyclopedias don't typically give an author's name. But the organization is trusted. Can we get information from other websites? Well, let's see. If we scroll down, we have other articles. We have credits. And I apologize, there is a date. The last time it was updated was February 22nd, 2013. So even though it's several years old, we have the information and we know that it is being credited. What is the purpose? Well, the purpose is there to inform and educate, and it uses neutral language. Also, the site presents information that can be easily checked for accuracy based on the information that's given here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Google Drive file and you're going to open the reliable source checklist, and you're going to complete this for each source that you select for your essay. You should do this checklist before uploading your sources to your own Google Drive file, so that way when I look at your sources, it will be easy for me to determine whether they're suitable for your writing. If they don't meet the checklist, then you shouldn't upload those sources to your file. Alright, so your next assignment is to complete the sources checklist, find your 2 to 4 sources, upload those to your file, and then we'll be moving on to writing the final draft of your outline.